Hey guys, welcome to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting this shawl collar dress with side ruffles that you can see on your screen. So I'll go ahead and start taking my points. The first point is distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. The next point is distance from my shoulder to my hip line, which is 24 inches. And my dress length is going to be 36 inches. So after marking the points, I went ahead to rule straight lines across all the points and I labeled the lines. The next thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. The next thing I'll do is to take my neck measurement. So for the neck width, I'll be using 3 inches. So I'll go in by 3 inches and I'll indicate the 3 inches with a dot. What I'll do now is to slant from the 3 inches to make the 1 inch shoulder slope like this. After doing that, I'll mark my neck depth. So this is the back and I don't want the neck depth to be too deep, so I'll go down by just 1.5 inches. After doing that, I'll connect from the 1.5 inches to meet the 3 inches neck width like this. The next thing I'll do is to take my armhole depth, which is 8 inches. I'll go down from the shoulder slope by 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll place the same measurement that I have on my shoulder line, which is my half of my shoulder measurement. I'll make sure I have the same measurement on the 8 inches that I came down with, which is my armhole depth. So to get your armhole depth, you're going to divide your bust circumference by 6 and you add 1.5 inches to whatever you get. So what I did now is to connect straight down from the shoulder slope to the 8 inches. And on that 8 inches point, I'm just going to rule a straight line across, which is going to be my chest line. The next thing I'll do is to divide this straight line into 2 and I'll mark the center. On that center, I'll go in by half an inch. I'll also indicate the half an inch. On the chest line, which is where the armhole stops, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the shoulder slope to the half an inch and from there to the dot that I have on the chest line like this. So the next thing I'll do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. So I'll start marking from the length of my dress all the way to the bust point. After doing that, I'll connect all the dots into a straight line. To take in my dart, I'm going to be taking half an inch on both sides of the straight line and I'll do that on the waistline. So I'll take half an inch to the left and half an inch to the right. After doing that, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. You can do 1 inch, you can do half an inch. I'm doing half an inch, not 1 inch. I'll go down by half an inch on the bust point. I'll indicate the half an inch with a dot. After doing that, I'll place my ruler to connect from the half an inch to meet the half an inch that I have on the waistline on both sides. To connect to the hip point, I'm going to go up by 2.5 inches. I'll indicate the 2.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect from that 2.5 inches all the way to the waistline like this. The next thing I'll do now is start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, so I'll add my stitching allowance of 1.5 inches. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll replace the dart of about half an inch and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the 1 inch for that and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, you place your hip circumference divided by 4. If you want it fuller, you know the dart didn't get to the hip, but you can still add something there to make it fuller if you want. Okay, so the same measurements I placed on the hip line, I'm going to place it on the hem line and then I'm going to go ahead and connect. So I'll connect from the chest line to the under bust to the waist, from there to the hip like this, and I'll connect to the dress length. What I'll do is to highlight the dart leg from the hip all the way to the base of the dress. So for the ruffle on the side of the dress, we'll be cutting this part of the dress out. So on the waistline, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches. It's not even important, you can just connect from the waistline. Okay, so I'm going to place the curved part of my roller on that 1.5 inches and I'll connect from there into the dart leg. That is why I highlighted the dart leg, so you understand what I'm trying to do. So I'll just connect as you can see me doing to give it this shape that you can see on the waistline. After doing that, I'll use my free hand to just connect using my marker to make it more visible. So for the center front, I want it to be 3 inches. What I have is 4 inches. So folded into 2, it is 8 inches. I want it to be 7 inches so it can be a little bit slim. So from the dart leg, I came out by 1 inch and I'm connecting it back to the dart leg, as you can see, okay? So the center is not that wide, okay? So after doing that, this is what I have. So we'll be slashing and spreading this part of the pattern paper. So what I'll do is to just rule straight lines on the pattern paper. So there is no guideline for this. Just rule as many lines as you want to rule. Then you are going to label the lines, okay? And also label the center and the side, okay? The other side is the side, while this side facing me is the center. I went ahead to also label, so when I'm spreading it, I know which goes where. So to close up my dart, I'm going to place my tape on the shoulder, and what I have left there is 5 inches. I'm going to mark the middle of the 5 inches, which is 3.5 inches. I'm going to connect from the middle to the dart leg on the bust point. So I'll be cutting through this line to close the dart. So after doing that, I'm going to connect from the stitching allowance on the chest line to the armhole area like this. So the next thing I'll do is to contour the back area. Since the back does not have a zipper, we don't want it to gape at the back. So I came in by ½ inch on the waist area and I connected upward and downward like this. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So please pay close attention so you know where to cut. After cutting, this is what I have. So all you have to do is to add your stitching allowance all the way around when cutting on your fabric, and then you slash through the side that we are going to gather to the side. The front pattern paper should be at least 5 inches longer and 5 inches wider than that of the back. So from the center front, I went ahead to take out 4 inches and I connected all the way to the length of my dress, and on the upper part I also marked 4 inches and I connected like this. So the allowance we left is going to be for the collar. So first thing I'll do is to take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I indicated the 8 inches with a dot. On that 8 inches dot, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll take my neck width, which is going to be 3 inches, same for the back, and for the depth I'll be using 3 inches. So what I'll do is to connect from the 3 inches neck width to the 1 inch shoulder slope in a slant like this. After doing that, I'll connect the neckline from the 3 inches neck width to the 3 inches neck depth. After doing that, I'll start taking my point. First point is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my under bust point, which is 13 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waist point, which is 16 inches. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my hip point, which is 24 inches, and the length of the dress remains 36 inches. So after doing that, I went ahead to rule straight lines across all the points, and then I'll label my lines. So next thing I'll do is to go down from the shoulder slope by 8 inches, which is going to be my armhole depth. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll make sure I have the same measurement that I have on the shoulder line, which is 8 inches on that line, and I'll rule a straight line across that point. So this line now is going to be the chest line. So go ahead and label your lines. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape on the straight line and I'll divide what I have into two. What I have is 8 inches. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches, so I'll indicate the 4 inches with a dot. On that dot, I'll come in by ½ inch. I'll also indicate the ½ inch with a dot. On the chest line, I'll place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll also indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope to the ½ inch, and from that ½ inch to the dot that I have on the chest line like this. Next thing I'll do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. So I'll mark the 4 inches on the bust line, on the under bust line, on the waistline, on the hip line, and on the dress length, and I'll connect all the dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'll take ½ inch on both sides of the straight line, and I'm going to do that on the waistline. If you're a plus size, you can do 0.75 inches on both sides or 1 inch on both sides. So I'm marking ½ inch on both sides. After doing that, I'll go down by ½ inch on the bust line, and then I'm going to connect from the ½ inch to the dot on the waistline like this. On the hip line, I'll go up by 2.5 inches. So I'll indicate the 2.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'll connect from the 2.5 inches upward like this. So the next thing I'll do is to start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line, so I added 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the under bust line, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the darts, and then I'll add 1.5 inches for stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the 1 inch dart and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4. So there is no darts to replace, but if you want it fuller, you can add whatever it is you want to add to your original measurements, okay? So after doing that, make sure you add your stitching allowance, okay? That is very important, okay? So I forgot to add my stitching allowance on the front, but I'm going to adjust that later. I did added my stitching allowance on the back, so I'm going to adjust that. That is why my hip line is not coming together. So after placing all your measurements, you are going to connect. The next thing I did was to use my marker to make the dart leg more visible, so I connected it all the way to the length of the dress. So after doing that, we are going to also cover out the side just like we did before for the side ruffle. So come in by 1.5 inches and then use the curved part of your roller to just connect it to meet the dart leg like this. So after doing that, like I did before, so I'm going to come in by 1 inch from the dart leg like this, and I'm going to connect it back to the dart leg upward, okay? So after connecting, this is what I have. So for the slash and spread method, I'll repeat the same thing, okay? So I'll just rule straight lines on this part all the way. After doing that, I went ahead to adjust the hip area by just adding my my stitching allowance that I didn't add earlier. So I placed the front and the back together, and you can see that they are sitting together. So the next thing we'll do now is to work on the collar and the button area. So for the button area, you're going to determine how deep you want the neckline of your jacket to be. So for me, I'm going to go up from my under bust line by 1 inch. If you want it deeper, you can go down. If you want it close, you can go up. So I went up by 1 inch from my under bust line. On that point, I'm taking 1.5 inches all the way to the dress length. So I'm going to connect it out, and then I'll mark the 1.5 inches and I'm going to connect. So this is where we are going to be fixing our buttons, okay? So after doing that now, I'm going to now slant from the neck width of 3 inches all the way to this zipper the button allowance, okay? So you're going to place your roller in a slanted form like this, and you're going to connect. You can see how deep my neckline is. If you don't want yours to be this deep, you can stop at the bust line, okay? So the next thing I'll do is to bring in the back neckline, and I'll measure what I have all the way around. After measuring what I have is 4 inches. So this collar will be cutting the one that will go through the back also on this particular pattern paper. So that is why I left extra 4 inches on the upper part. So I'm going to go up by 4 inches in a slanted form. You can see that I didn't place my tip straight. It is slanted. I'll mark the 4 inches, okay? After doing that, I'll place my ruler and I'll slant it upward. Make sure your ruler is not placed straight. Make sure it is slanted like this. What I'll do now is to go out by half an inch. I'm doing this because I want the collar to sit really well on the neckline. So I came out from the first line by half an inch. I'm going to slant it back into the neck width like this. After doing that, we're going to be using the other line now, not this particular one that I'm cancelling. So the next thing is to determine how wide you want the collar to be. So for me, I'll be going in by 3.5 inches, okay? So I'm going to place my ruler in a slant again, and I'm going to slant from there to the 3.5 inches. After doing that, I'll connect from there now to this straight line in a straight form like this. After connecting, I'm going to now use the curved part of my ruler to connect from this part now into the button allowance. Okay, so look at the way I'm placing my ruler. If you want it straight, you can make it straight, but I want it to have a little bit of curve, so I'm going to curve it upward like this. So yeah, we have the collar in place. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark the center of the shoulder area. So I'll place my tape. What I have is 5 inches. I'll mark the middle of 5 inches, which is 2.5 inches. On that 2.5 inches, I'm going to slant to meet the that leg on the bust line like this. So after connecting, this is what I have. So the next thing I'll do now is to go ahead and cut. So please pay close attention so you know where to cut. After cutting, guys, this is what I have. So this is the part of the collar that will be folded in just like this, so you can see how wide my collar is. So I'll also open the dart up. Okay, so when you are cutting on your fabric, you'll be adding half an inch all the way, and then you'll be using the half an inch to sew them back. We just splitted it into two because we have to close the dart. Okay, so this is what we have for the front. So for the slash and spread method, you don't have to slash and spread, because as you can see on the thumbnail, the gathered is not even gathered at all. It's like they just cut it out, placed it on the fabric folded into two, and they sewed it back. But in case you want to gather yours, I'm going to be showing you how to do the slash and spread method. Okay, so what you do now is to go ahead and pick one of the sides. I'll be using that of the back. Okay, I'm going to slash through all the lines. Don't forget to label your lines. Okay, so after slashing through, you're going to fold your fabric into two, and you're going to start spreading these pattern papers on the fabric. So the side of the fabric that is open is where you are going to start placing number one from. Okay, so before you start placing, go ahead and add about 2 inches allowance on the upper part of the fabric. You'll be needing that. So from the opened end of the fabric, I'm going to place number one. You determine how wide you want to spread it. So let's say you are doing about 2.5 inches. From the first pattern paper, you mark 2.5 inches. Then you place the second pattern paper, you pin it down, you mark 2.5 inches, like that. So it depends on how full you want that part to be. Okay, but whatever you do, make sure number 6 or your last number, whatever your last number is going to be on fold. That part of the fabric should not be open at all. Okay, so just go ahead and place all your pattern papers if you want to do a slash and spread method. But as you can see, the one on the thumbnail, there is no gather there, so all you have to do is to fold your fabric into two, and then you cut out exactly what you have. But don't forget to add allowance on the upper part and on the base that you'll be using to sew and also hem the base. Okay, so after placing on my pattern paper, I went ahead to add half an inch on the base, and you can see this folded end. So once you gather all this together, you're going to have a really full gathers on the side. So the folded side of this fabric is the center. So when you're sewing, you're going to notch the folded side of the fabric and sew it to the side joining of the dress. And yeah, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.